All right, we're live, or are we? Yeah, we're live. All right, what's going on, YouTube world? What's going on, YouTube family? This is your brother or brother, African Emporium. Peace, power, and profit to you all. Uncle Josh Neb, all the great salutation that's obviously warmly owned by you all. Thank you for stopping by, hanging out with your brothers today on this Wednesday. Um, again, before I even get started, I want to greet you all very, 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 very warmly because right now uh, there's not enough of that kind of level of humility and humble energy spreading around right now. So I want to be the first to say I welcome you all and I thank you all for hanging out with me. Uh, again, on my channel, just in general, some of the kind of different rooms that we're in through Discords, through Facebook's, Twitter, Stock Twits, whatever the case. Um, I'm grateful for all that you guys do in helping, each other become better in this craft of investing and trading. So with that being said, again, salute to everybody. A lot to kind of discuss a little bit. Don't have a lot of time, which is weird, right? How you gonna have a lot to discuss and not necessarily a lot of time to talk about it? But nonetheless, I do want to kind of have some a responsibility in trying to help provide information, clarity, and or just share and discuss some things that you guys may already be keenly fond about yourself in a way that we can all, be abreast of information. So we also have a little family already popped through. We have Oba Sunline in the building. Peace, power, and profit to you. We have the family Rashu in the house. Peace, power, and profit as well. Eva Monica in the house. Monica Lamb. Go subscribe to that sister channel right now. You won't regret it. Go get that knowledge. The sister is a walking treasure trove of knowledge from business administration down to military etiquette, everything. You name it, she's definitely a walking source value for that. What's going on, family Cristiano, fan Vivo? What's going on as well? Peace, power, and profit to you as well. I know I haven't been on in a while. Again, it bees that way sometimes, as they say. A lot has been going on in and around the country since I've been on last. So there's not uh, a negative aspect of content to discuss. However, I want to keep it strictly much as possible concerning the investment side of the house. What little bit of time I do have, and some of the shakeup and changes that are happening in or around the investment world or the financial market, if you want to use that. Again, I hope you guys have been trading very, responsibly. I hope you guys been trading again like we are trained to do, under the guise of proper due diligence and discipline, because again that matters. Again, due diligence matters, right? That's a t-shirt, t-shirt moment. Even more so now with markets being the way that they are and very nutty. And I say that because again they're all over the place. Again, we've been watching this meteoric rise, basically since the March lows, where the market just pretty much has kind of beelined itself back up, and now it's pretty much in a so-called "quote unquote" resting place, as if they already had a design. Talking about the pandemic of the coronavirus, I think this little market retracement is somewhat the same reality when it comes to the financial markets, knowing that the Federal Reserve, which in Jerome Powell actually is speaking right now before the House of Representatives, kind of giving his oversight value of pretty much what's going on that side of the house. When I say that side of the house, basically meaning fiscal policies, monetary policies, things of that nature. Which in a lot of ways is just a dog and pony show at this point, because it's pretty much very clear and lucid exactly what the Federal Reserve is orchestrating right now in terms of the financial markets. They are literally buying any and everything they can get their hands on that is somewhat within the mandate of things they can get away with without being hardly pressed and challenged on it. And we saw a taste of that the other day when they were speaking before the Senate, how some of the congressmen were pressuring him, through certain aspects and questions, the same way we got basically the week before when the Bloomberg reporter asked him pretty much outright, are you aware that you are inflating asset bubbles? And more so that you're only making rich people rich and, richer, and, the have not somewhat more, creating more disparity there. And that's also on the backdrop of all the so-called quote unquote racial inequality and racial tensions that are happening right now, where you keep seeing all these data points coming out from these Pew Reserve, surveys, things of that nature, where they're just saying that, black and brown people are suffering more under the COVID-19 economic strain. Not only that, they even saying physically, right? I guess the virus seems to want to attack black people more than anybody else, which is weird in itself. They will even put some mess out there like that. But again, I understand the media has an agenda too, whether you think it's just nuance or whether you think it's not. That's up to you. Decide, do your research, and figure out exactly what's going on. But we all know generally, again, they typically don't necessarily share our hard pressed views down to the minutia. The way you would think common sense will be operating in forms like that, because again, they're there to pretty much just kind of posture and pander for people who are looking to donate to them to keep them in their seat, so to speak. So you're never going to get that full truth, the whole truth, and none but the truth kind of reality. But nonetheless, for us, that's why we are the doers, we are the thinkers, we are the smart people. And I say, man, look around yourself every day, right? Ask yourself in relation to people who are actually either been affected by the coronavirus or, in some kind of form of fashion. A lot of these people now are looking to you, meaning you, the investor or the trader or the financial, peruser, so to speak, for answers. What are you guys doing? What is it you guys been able to sustain through this coronavirus that has you guys still so, optimistic and excited? Well, number one, the first thing off the bat, we have free will to access to the financial markets, where we're not governed by a time clock to a degree, a boss figure to, none of that. Uh, Racial inequality does not affect us. Again, weather does not affect us. None of these things affect us in a way where it affects everybody else. And so you say to yourself, okay, well, if I'm in the business of trying to better my life and procure, either supplemental or primary value-based incomes that, gives me the least path of resistance to get there, then investing in stocks, things of that nature is pretty much I mean, it's like a given, right? The only, pushback will be, well, I'm not familiar with it. Is it gambling? All the kind of things you hear, when people saying things like that. And what people just realized, they just pretty much took a lot of gamble on the government. They took a big gamble on the government, and a lot of people have lost on thinking that the government is pretty much going to have their back through this coronavirus situation. And it's unfortunate because, again, we've become a little too clingy to situations or institutions who necessarily don't always have your best interest in mind. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're not right some of the time, because we do know a clock is right at least twice a day. At least minimum it's right twice a day, right? So that could also be said the same when it comes to the government oversight institutions too. All right. So and saying all that, again, going strictly to the ideal of what we're here for, right? The meat and potatoes, as they call it, right? Get to the meat and potatoes, brother. African Emporium, right? It's this market, right? It's this market, this market, this market. What can we say? How do we put this into understanding, context, or whatever, and convince ourselves that everything is still fine? And again, just looking at the data chart here on the SPY here again, pretty much the litmus test sentiment indicator ETF that lets people know whether or not there's good energy in the market or there's pretty much bad energy in the market, right? And for the most part, Wall Street has had a very sanguine mentality over the past literally 3 months, at a point where most people who are on Main Street were backpedaling, trying to figure out, even how they're going to even feed themselves, let alone their bills, their jobs, things of that nature, right? Everybody seemed to have gotten a quote unquote pass on the Wall Street side of things. Again, financial fiduciary irresponsible based companies. We'll talk about a few of those as well. Aspects of again just unprecedented value of just blowing money and splurging money, taxpayers' money, that is your money, that is on junk bonds, muni bonds, anything you could think about. The Fed has just been going on this again, MTV crib, excuse me, shopping spree, and you have no somewhat say so in the matter in terms of where you feel like those dollars should be directed, right? And in that instance alone, that's problematic. And so again, we've been very fortunate. Meaning, I say we, meaning again us who follow the markets from a place of not necessarily just again chasing the market, but more so just being patient and allowing the market to come to us. We've realized that there's been some great opportunities, all right, in a lot of stocks that's been off the beaten path, or not necessarily even in the the main crux of things that has been running. Obviously, that being what the tech sector, the triple Qs, and also the XLK, and then all the individual players underneath that, your Apples, your Googles, your Facebooks, your things of that nature, Microsoft, etc., Netflix, etc. Outside of that, those are only really true stocks that's been carrying the weight of the market. They've been carrying, the strength of the market. And again, that's off the backdrop of the reverse repo operation that the Federal Reserve is doing and dumping all this liquidity in the markets by way of JP Morgan, BlackRock, and maybe a couple of the institutions that they're obviously loaning this money to, right? And in relation, in essence to that, or in return, they getting a small fee off the back of it as being the handlers of this money. So they went in double. Not only they got securities out there that are being publicly traded as well, but they also utilizing all this fake fiat currency money that the Federal Reserve is printing digitally and giving it to people like BlackRock and JP Morgan as well. They're getting also a handling fee on top of it. And so again, of course, they're going to have a bullish disposition. They're not going to be bearish, even though all the economic macro data tells you that the market should be a lot more trading at a realistic position than where it's at right now. But nonetheless, people are always going to push back and say, well, okay, well, I mean, people, pension funds are tied up in the market. This, that, third. Okay, y'all know how this stuff goes. It's a very simple thesis. It's sink or swim. Sink or swim. Everybody knows the financial responsibility when it comes to investing in what? Securities, right? That's why they always tell you never invest more than you're willing to lose. However, there seems to be this energy around the markets, again, where the Federal Reserve is not going to let anybody lose. Irresponsible companies, bad practices, theft, fraud, all that. These companies are still being able to catch a bid. How is that? Right? How is that? Because there's no true oversight committed to what? To watch these kind of things. Well, you're supposed to have an SEC that's supposed to be the watchdog for this, but they've been sleeping at the wheel, right? They've been sleeping at the wheel going on over a year now. If you ask me, actually a little over a year. But again, this is just a part where, being that there's so much so-called, uncertainty in the overall global marketplace with the coronavirus, this, that, and the third. Now you got civil unrest, and we'll get to a little bit of that before we end the broadcast before it's over with. But on top of that, you also have international, conflict that's starting to happen with Iran. No, excuse me, not Iran, but India and China. Right, India and China is now starting to beef. Right, so to make things even worse, again, Beijing just went back on a somewhat of a mandatory lockdown to a degree. All right, back in this province area, with those coronavirus cases are starting to respike in that area, and on top of that, India obviously somewhat was kind of halfway in and halfway out of coronavirus quarantining, and now they're actually kind of right back in it. And on top of that, now they got tensions with China, right? Territorial tensions with China right now. And so that ain't never good. Again, with everybody's trying to just even survive right now, with so much that's going on surround this pandemic situation and economic deprivation, because that's another major part of why people are starting to feel very pressed to the limit. Right? They've been shut down. They can't work. They can't make money. They can't grow crops. They can't really take care of the animals they want to. Not like they normally would, with everything back to normal. I mean, again, everybody's kind of under that microscope, so to speak. And so it's just making for a marketplace, again, in my opinion, that's very unstable. All right. So peace, power, profit. What's going on over, Christy, in the building there? Let me post a link here, guys, just in case you guys want to come on. Again, I know I probably won't be on a lot of hours today because we also have an awesome show coming up this evening with our Urban Economic Empowerment Show, headed up by the illustrious Miss Monica Lamb. That's in the back chat now, guys. Go subscribe to that sister channel right now. You won't regret it, like I said before. And so we will be discussing some of these things in general, obviously going over some stocks, going over some, again, financial literacy, tools and things of that nature to help better ourselves and fight back again against this kind of slow churn of government understanding of what it really takes to take care of the so-called American people. All right. And as a taxpaying citizen, these are moments where change is forged, right? Change is forged under the aspect of chaos. Anytime you have chaos, there's always going to be some kind of form of change that comes from it. Be it good or bad, change will come regardless from it. And so these are, again, great times for all of us to circle our own wagons. Number one, within ourselves, self-preservation first, and then from there, our families, and then extend out from there to our friends, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And so I think it's very important to make sure that you have a solid group of people around you during this time, in this day and age. Again, people who are doers, who are builders, who are quantitative thinkers, who are, again, about business and life in general and positivity, because of the fact that right now is not the time to be sitting there getting caught up in trivial things, spinning your wheels in the sand, going nowhere. Right? Because right now the rich are getting richer as we speak, down to the seconds that I'm talking. The rich are getting richer off this pandemic. I had to pause for a moment because literally it's a moment of silence for those who are out there playing around thinking that this is a joke. They're going to be the ones going to be heavily affected, especially when we really began to somewhat open this thing back up. And we already at phase 2 of the so-called, reopening of America, or whatever Trump called it, making America again great again, or opening it again. I don't know what he be saying, but nonetheless, we're already at phase 2, which started last Friday, right? And now you're already hearing coronavirus cases are starting to spike back up. Arizona, Texas, and Florida, my home state of Florida, right? We already know they was in the crossfire anyway because they were very stubborn, even the quarantine. Again, they put profit over safety. Well, we've seen that picture before. Where we seen that before at? Boeing, right? Boeing stock, right? Putting profit over safety, right? MCAS situation, killed over 340 some odd people through the negligence. And you're seeing the same thing again now with these so-called political figures in terms of these governors. They're pushing back against the Congress and CDC and the FDA, the same people that they're sworn to always want to also coattail and ride when it's in their benefit. But when it's against them being able to make money, then it's like, well, who listens to the CDC? Who listens to the FDA? Who listens to these, these bodies? They're wrong, right? They're wrong. Right? And so again, now you have a lot of infighting that's starting to happen, which is also good for the American layman, because now you get to see exactly who the real charlatans are. Who are the people who are more destined to look out for their bottom line in terms of their state surpluses and GDP aspect, all right, as opposed to looking out for the safety of their their patrons, right? Their citizens or their residents, so to speak. And so it's a real big major overhaul, wake-up call going around the country, from Seattle to New York, again, Chicago, Tennessee, you name it, whatever major city hub that you're near, there definitely is some level of, I guess, unrest to a degree that's starting to happen in and around those areas. And that's before we even get to, the George Floyd situations and the other situations we've been hearing around the country with this police reform and police brutality, so to speak, that's been causing a lot of people to really, really, go, again, fisticuffs with the government in a lot of ways, right? And then you have I don't want this. Well, we have a lot of inept leader figures out there who are fanning the flames, right? I'll just say that we have some inept leader figures out there who are fanning the flames. Y'all can do the deductive reasoning with that and figure out exactly what I'm saying in that perspective, right? But again, for us, we're somewhat still protected. And I say us meaning the investor, the trader, because the markets have been on fire for a lot of these small cap type stocks, for these stocks who are, again, off the beaten path, that has shown to be very lucrative opportunities for us to capitalize on. right? For us to capitalize on. I'm sorry about that, Ober, Chris. Let me add you to the stream. Sorry about that, Ober. I forget I get to talking and this thing, I forget to even check the back. But yeah, so the market has been very lucrative, right? It has been very lucrative. So again, we've been very fortunate to catch some of these stocks. And you're seeing people who are, again, novice traders, who are intermediate mindset type traders, even the so-called quote unquote experts, who are now starting to, again, pull away from some of these more expensive, game buster type plays that have been happening off the March lows backed by the Federal Reserve. And they're going into more assets or securities that are more speculative for the ideal of just the volatility alone, right? And some of these stocks now are, again, under the civil unrest. If y'all keep using that term, because that's basically what the news people are headlining it. But some of these stocks are now that are being front run or even spotlit, I should say, by new investors and traders, are somewhat of ESG type plays. Right, I've spoken about ESG type stocks, several times on my channel, for years. So it seemed to a degree, but even more so now, they seem to be kind of picking back up. As we got also news recently that the NAACP is now really putting a lot of spotlight on their ETF ticker, which they actually have an ETF ticker that's publicly traded, or they're looking to, again, get it, get more notoriety to it. That's under the ESG brand, right? So some of you guys that may not be familiar what ESG mean, well, it's very simple. It's just an acronym for environmental, social, governance, so to speak, right? Because again, the social dynamic of the fabric of the people really dictate what happens in and around the world on the economic value, right? Again, they are the ones who, not necessarily in general as a whole, but they do carry a lot of weight, right? Again, your Tesla type investors, right? Pollution, air quality, things of that nature, energy, solar, wind power, things that are social inequality based reality type stocks that have that kind of connotation behind them. They've become a little bit more prevalent right now under the situation that we're dealing with. Case in point, this stock that I'm showing right here in Carver Bank Corp, right? Incorporated, right? Now, Carver Bank Corp, for some of you guys may not be familiar with them, they are a black-owned ran bank, right? They are a FDIC chartered bank. So they're the real deal, right? And today, they caught a massive bid. They caught a massive bid. Again, based on those same things that we're speaking about. And this is also in tandem to what we saw yesterday. If some of you guys were familiar to catch the stock, UONE, Urban One, which is also the Black Rand Media Company based situation there, it caught a massive bid yesterday as well, and ran up over about 500-600% plus. Today we had again in Carver Bank Corp here run up over almost near 1,000%, almost near 1,000%. Just looking at where it came from. Again, if some of you guys may not be familiar with this stock, it literally came from like $2.70 some odd cent, right, and went up as high as around about 23 and some change. All right, let that marinate for a moment. So you're talking about well over almost near 1,000% plus, right? Couldn't make this stuff up, and still holding this game pretty well. Here on the back end of the day, within the side of the power hour of 3 o'clock, going into 4 o'clock, the stock hasn't really cratered like you would think it would. Not to say that it won't still, or after hours, but nonetheless, it had a chance to kind of pull back here, roughly around near the 1 o'clock hour, and it pulled back again, roughly off a point where it was kind of trending near the 20-day moving average, which is the blue line, all the way down to like $9 and change, and then again, some shorts must have covered and new buyers came in. As you can see here, the spotty volume that's very faintly down here came right back in and pushed it back up above the $13 handle. And we've been trending sideways within that kind of, space so far here on the back end of the day. All right. So, hold up, this thing is acting all over the place. Again, every time you go live, everything want to go to popping and pinging. I got all these broker screens open. That's probably why. It is what it is. All right. So we'll give it a minute to reload here. But nonetheless, again, this is what we're starting to see now in the markets. And so now I'm not saying that you just go out there and try to find anything that has to do with, you know, black ran business and this, that, third, and say I'm going to invest in it. But I'm just saying, just be, be a curator of your craft, right? Be a curator of your craft. We do research for these kind of moments, right? We are looking to front load stocks, not necessarily get in after they've taken off, right? Because if you get in early and front load it, then guess what? When it does explode like this and runs over 1,000%, and you were in again at the third cheap levels, what does that do to your opportunity? It increases your P&L exponentially, right? Exponentially. So again, for what is worth, it just goes to show you that we are in the times where the ESG type plays are starting to gain traction. So before a lot of people might have overlooked them, I would say don't overlook them so much now. Not that all of them are worthy to be traded or played, but they are on the table as far as something that we need to kind of look at. Because again, I know none of y'all. If y'all say y'all did, then please tip me on to your level of research and due diligence. But I know no one that was prepared for Carver Bank today to run up over 1,000%. Right, and that's me dealing in a lot of different Discord rooms on Twitter, on Stock Twits, all these other little rooms where people discussing stocks and trading. Again, there might have been some pump, some pump teams out there. There are people out there like that where they kind of strategize, say we're going to pump this stock. It's in line with what's going on. Whatever. But I was not in one of those rooms. I've been very busy lately, so that's probably why. Because I am in a few of those rooms that do that. They sit around and discuss pumping dumps. How they gonna pump a stock up and get out of it? But again, I was not ready for this myself. All right, so kudos to anybody that was in this stock around $2 and change. That was even a long-term holder. You guys are the great winners here today. Even though day traders got in on the action too, because I did, I will admit I got in on the action too, right? But the long-term holder of this institution, this stock, this equity, they were the great winners today. And if they didn't sell up there near over above 20, I know it was a great incentive, to really for them to feel comfortable about their position, even though it may still pull back. Nonetheless, they are a lot richer today than they was per se yesterday. Right. So if I have some sound effect right now, I have some hands clapping. So I'll just do it for them personally. I'll be cheesy and I'm gonna clap for those guys, right? So kudos to the Carver Bank Corp holders of that stock, black owned, black ran business, black bank, excuse me, that's FDIC rated, so it's the real deal. Catching a massive bid today, which was obviously the biggest gainer on the day, which is still up right now about 446%. After a massive run off the lows or its particular, consolidation chop zone that had been riding in for quite some time. Matter of fact, let's go back and look at the monthly chart. If you go back and look at the monthly chart, well, there you go. Stock just been sideways like forever. Forever, ever, like Outcast, forever, ever. Yeah. So like $3 to $2 and change. And today, look at this massive, this this rocket ship, of a move today. And so it really brought on a whole new different ball game of having money on the books to lend out now to black businesses or anybody that come in there that bank with them. They now have to increase their war chest, and that's especially if they end up doing an offering, which I would, if I were them, I would definitely do an offering right after the close. Why wouldn't you? From $2 and change up to like 20 plus. Oh, we doing an offer. We're gonna lock some of this money in, right? We're gonna use this ESG moment to finance some of these people who are out there could benefit from this moment, this climate, their business practices that might have been struggling because of the fact that some of these PPE loans and other loans in this area that make it to a lot of people who really deserve it for the small businesses. All right, so here's a great chance for them to do some good with it. So I hope they do. Right, and I hope you ain't in the stock long at $13 saying, man, don't say that African poor. Don't be saying that, man. You're gonna jinx the stock. But I just have to be honest, right? I just have to be honest. So that's my side of the ticket where I just say, you know what, this is a great opportunity to leverage. I hope they leverage it. Right. So that's it. So again, I'm sure you guys been seeing, that's happening. Again, what was the ticker symbol? You won. I just say you won. Right. That was the meteoric riser yesterday. It also had another subsidiary ticker symbol UONEK. And again, like I say, Carver being the other, big bangers today. So putting those tickers in symbols, excuse me, in the back chat for you guys is something to kind of look at if you already haven't got a chance. So what's going on, Obert? What's going on, family? Right? Again, good to have you guys in the building. And so again, I just wanted to come on and share a little bit of that. I haven't been on in a while, but again, y'all know I'm always somewhere close by. Just been very busy with a lot of other tasks and things that have been going on. That happens a lot in and around my world. But again, I'm always again a text, email, or message away if you need to get in contact with your brother. All right, not that you just have to, but if you need to, I'm here. All right. All right. So what's going on over, Chris? What's going on, family? I see you in the back chat. I don't know if you're busy right now or not.
Peace, power, and profit, Oba.
Hey, what's going on, fam? How's your day been so far, man? How's everything been since we last been on?
Pretty good. You dropped the news on me about the cases spiking up here in Texas, specifically Houston, which I think the whole state is, there's been spikes. But so, you know, this time around, I'm staying in the house. I'm not going back to work. That's it for me. I'm good. Um, if I had to sit here and trade all 5 days to get that bag, I will do it. So, and that's what I'm looking forward to. But besides that, uh, I had a trade today. I think it was LMAF, I believe, but that was
Right.
pre-market. I took a pre-market trade today. And,
Right. That was a banger today as well.
yeah,
Again, it was up, I think, around about 400% up near the top aspect of that trade. Uh,
yeah,
it and I think its warrants were running today as well. Well, a lot of these warrants are running right now anyway. Well, you know why the warrants are running. Right? Some of you guys may not be familiar with warrants. Basically, it's just a backstop bond of some of the equity stocks in itself that a company may also offer. And so when their natural equity stock is running, the warrants are picking up and running right along with them, right? I've been trading warrants going on, I don't know, but 4 year, 3 years, somewhere around there. And the same kind of reality, back then that I learned that some of the equity, when they get to jumping up and running, well, the warrants are somewhat, will, pick up and get right behind them. And so, again, that stock that he's talking about, again, and it's a funding aid America type of I don't know. It's more of a what is I forgot what they actually do. Let me see. Run over here. But I know it nonetheless. I saw it running in LMFA. You guys may not be familiar with it. Hold on, let me get over here. This thing is acting crazy here. Yeah, funding America, some kind of fund. I don't know if it's a fintech or whatever in the financial side of the house. It could be a holdings company, whatever.
mm-hmm.
But either way, the stock again was a big banger today. Again, coming from I think roughly around about what $1 and some change,
Yeah,
somewhere around there,
yeah,
and jumping up and running as high as near I want to say that near $5 a share. So big mover there, well over 400%.
mm-hmm.
So awesome trade over. So you caught it pre-market. I can see here definitely when it jumped up and started spiking up pre-market here, roughly a little bit around by a little after 8 o'clock. That thing caught some moon boots and it took off.
Yep.
I was seeing it slightly.
Yep.
Yeah. So you want to explain that? Explain your trade, or what made you was kind of watching on the scanner, and then saw it pop off and got at it.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause I got up around like about 4:30. I went to the gym, came back home, and you know, open up that good old scanner, and I just seen the opportunity. I was like, man, yes, stock is running, and did my due diligence, and I think I got in around like 250, around 250. So I was a little late getting in, but I caught me 50 cent. So I got out about around $3.02, and I messed up. I could have got more because I was trading on Webull. So uh, when I was trying to place my limit order, I forgot to hit extended hours, and it wasn't taking out the trade. So I was like, man, what am I doing wrong? And I mean, for like 15, 20 minutes, I'm sitting here waiting for it, to hit my target, and it hit the target, and I'm like, why it's not taking it? So I go back, and I'm like, oh man, I forgot to hit extended hours, so I
That
lost a
extended
little money.
tab. Do you know
Yeah,
that they actually changed it over? It used to be already implied if you was trading pre-market or after hour, they automatically had it greenlit. They
dang,
since removed that feature. I don't
yeah,
know when they did it, but it just happened recently because I was trading a lot pre-market because stocks were just tearing it up over the past couple of weeks,
yeah,
right? And so it was already greenlit before you go to place that order. Now you have to actually press it yourself.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they kind of got us on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I got today. I was like, man. So I was like, man, it's all good. I take that little 50 cents. You know what I'm saying? You know, just took it might be chump change, but it's money I didn't have, the extra money I didn't have. So
Well,
now
you
I'm
know
trying
my
to
thesis ain't no money out there that you haven't discovered
right.
yet. It's chump change. Because if you able to acquire it, that's more than you had before you woke up that day. And
That
and if the penny candy theory to be confirmed, and a person can sit around and sell penny candy all day long and clean out the shelves doing it, well, guess what? It all adds up at the end of the day. And what makes it such a great opportunity for us again, because we're doing it from the comfort of our home, cell phone, tablets, computers, wherever, on the beach, on this in the park, you know, in quarantine, at the lake, it doesn't matter. We're privy to the opportunity. So a lot of people, again, like I spoke about in my introduction of the video, who are sitting around right now trying to figure out if the government is really going to backstop them and take care of them. And the government's sitting there saying, how can I leverage these people being hungry in, in civil unrest and the despair for votes, right? So they're sitting there playing a dirty game, and we're like, I'm not going to sit there and do that. Only, because of the fact that we have a skill set in, being able to trade stocks or investing in companies, this, that, and the third, that gives us unlimited access to what? Pools and pools of money. And so 50 cents goes a long way in this marketplace, right? Let that marinate and never, take that for, a lightweight reality, because again, throwing shares behind a 50 cent move can be a great, 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 great multiplier, right? In the right environment. And again, you did this from the comfort of your cell phone, tablet, computer, you know, and it really didn't take you a whole lot of time to do it. Again, looking at the chart, you're just saying just where you got in at. You said around about 250, somewhere around about 250-ish.
yeah.
All right. So again, right off this little pullback, I don't know if it was happening in between this little, time frame here, but it pulled back here. After it kind of gapped up off, off the spike up from the pre-market session, bottom out perfect around about 240, somewhere around that point, when it kind of pulled back a little to kind of get new buyers to come in, and they did. The boy, did they come back in, and it skyrocketed back up, got back above the VWAP here, or right at trending at the VWAP, which is the indication magnet, as I like to call them, magnet indicators, right? And then it exploded once the market opens up. I exploded to the upside, pulled back ever so slightly, rounded it out, and again, in came the gangbusters, so to speak. And so that was a phenomenal trade. Again, 10 o'clock, you out of there, right? 10 o'clock is done. Uh, and for the most part, again, all you needed was about 20, 30 minutes. In his case, again, he was in a lot earlier in the pre-market, so he was already strategizing off the gap up and looking for some follow-through continuation. And buyers coming in under this sentiment, bull rush, basically what it was. Everybody don't want to miss this, this opportunity. And he just rode the wave of new buyers when they came in, on the retail side, who are new to this and that don't understand how to trade pre-market, maybe, who knows, whatever the case. It was a great trade, a really good trade. And so, again, on the back end of the day, it's doing what it normally would do. In any case, for some of these stocks that gap up and run so much, it's pulling back naturally. So again, even if a person was equipped to take the downside here, they're also eating right now as well. Right? They're eating on this, on the way back down, making large chunks of money on the way back down. Right? So again, best profession on the planet, man. I tell you what, you make money going up, we make money going down. Right? And sometimes you can make money when it's just going sideways too. And so yeah, so again, I get excited every time I see people, in these positions, and they're challenging themselves and they're looking to acquire, again, different opportunistic opportunities and skills to help them, again, put some money in their pocket, right? Put some money in your pocket, right? So that turned out to be, again, another great example in LMFA, right? And so, interesting, again, just to kind of looking at my description, we were speaking about, all this, again, this kind of ESG uprising that's happening right now, in or around, again, all the police brutality or inequality, governments and companies, whatever the case. And so a lot of these so-called quote unquote corporations are standing up, after the fact, as always. Y'all know how it never becomes an issue until it becomes a national uproar. Now they're going, being called to the carpet to really give back to the people that, they benefit so greatly off of through their what? Their consumerism. And so now they're starting to having to invest back into some of these companies, these black businesses, these black HBCUs. I mean, y'all been watching the news like I have, right? It's no shortage of seeing people call the ties. You even had flip floppers out there like Starbucks, right? Starbucks obviously having a very near distant past so-called racial conflict in its stores with baristas having issues with black people being in the stores and all kind of foolishness, or people in the store harassing black people. And again, the mentality of people who think they own things or entitled to can't seem to understand now in this day and age that people ain't going for that silliness anymore. Right? That dog is not going to hunt anymore. That ship has been sailed. But what it does do indirectly is affect these corporate brands when the people who patronize them, who have this kind of insidious, parasitic mindset that they are entitled to, question everybody else because of their race or their stereotypes that they brandished on them in public. Well, it's starting to cost these companies money, right? It's costing them massive money. And so the only way they're really going to signify change is that they're going to have to spend money to keep money, not necessarily even to make more money, but to keep their money there. Because again, no one wants to be the pariah or the bad kid on the block, or the or the black sheep in the corporate sector, especially with America being and globally under this pandemic still, and people ain't spending money like that anyway because of the coronavirus. And so what dollars you are starting to get back in because of the reopening, you don't want that to be minimum as much, because people are now outside boycotting in front of your store. Right? They're out there, boycotting the brakes off Starbucks because, again, first, you're for Black Lives Matter, but you don't want people inside the store wearing propaganda, if you want to call it that, or symbols of that kind of level of what institution, or mentality change. Right? And then you turn around and flip flop literally a day after the fact, after you got with your lawyers and your your HR department and your PR department, and say, hey, that necessarily may not be a good move, right? And so, now we do accept people to wear Black Lives Matter shirts. Starbucks does support Black Lives Matter. Again, whether you support the institution as a whole or the organization as Black Lives Matter, personal you don't, or more so just the message that it stands for. Uh, Nonetheless, no one wants to be on the backside of that. And so today's so-called, I guess, spotlight corporate victim, not necessarily in a bad or good way, but they still a victim because the spotlight got onto them today, is PepsiCo, right? Pepsi Cola, basically. PEP is the ticker symbol. All right. So they've being the owners of Aunt Jemima pancake mix, right? Old school, right? Old school Aunt Jemima pancake mix been around since time immemorial. Even obviously during my time. Again, I came out of the 70s, so y'all know how old I am, right? But this company been around for quite a while, meaning the brand. And Pepsi Cola picked them up at some point. I don't know what the actual years when Pepsi Cola actually took over the rights of the company. But nonetheless, everything now has been looked at from a very racial, symbolic perspective now. Everything is being scrutinized. And some people are like, man, that's just a little too much, man. Y'all just being a little too sensitive, this, that, third. And I say to those people who say something like that, if the shoe was on the other foot, which we see sometimes even for more minuscule type thing, the outrage that they're looking to garner from their stuff is just overwhelmingly with a lot of support. Here it is, people who have a justified reason why they have issues with some of the things that's always perpetuated an ugly stain of racism, slavery, and injustice in this country, who are saying, hey, we need a major overhaul and change. Well, know what you should do if you have a issue against it? Just shut up and get out the way. If it ain't affecting your livelihood in the point where you still can't have the products you want or partake in the services that you've normally been doing, then just be quiet and get out of the way. It's as simple as that. And if you can't now eat Aunt Jemima pancake because Aunt Jemima herself ain't gonna be on the front of the box, so that name is not gonna be up there, but the recipe is still the same, then something is wrong with you. And that's the part that's making it very hard for a lot of people to swallow those kind of pills right now when they've had their so-called nuanced value of being intimidating through the symbols of products and packages and things that we've been living under for quite some time. That always seemed to be a problem for a lot of people when we thought about it. But again, no one cared enough to kind of really take these people to task. Well, guess what? It's starting to happen now. It's starting to happen now. And for what it's worth, I'm all for it. Why wouldn't I be? Right? Why wouldn't I be? Right? My ancestors went through this, and I'm here to speak from a place of unapologetic perspective because I understand at the end of the day, right? It's so much that needs to be overturned, and I'm saying that from the financial side of the house. This is me strictly speaking from the financial side, because again, we know racial inequality is very much prevalent through the financial benign neglect and redlining. I mean, they got case studies out there. They're showing you this stuff. So it's not like we making this stuff up. Hey, what's going on? Play Hot Adventures in the house. Our sister in the building. Peace, power, profit to you. Go subscribe to that sister channel right now. You will not be disappointed. Great content creator. Awesome individual. Just had a birthday recently. So happy Earth Day to you, Miss Play Hot Adventures in the house. Happy to have you here. Cakes, balloons, the whole nine. Let me stop for a minute, get off my soapbox, and show some love to the sisters when they do come in the house. Again, I love when I see the sisters come in because, again, they bring a very controlling, good energy in the building. Because y'all know how brutes are, and men sometimes we get a little bit of, we get a little, rough around the edges. But nonetheless, we always do it with some dignity and respect on this channel. But it's always good to have the women in the house, the ladies in the house. So happy Earth Day to you, Sister Play Hot. Again, definitely love the content you're putting out. And gotta get with you so you can help me be better at editing, because your editing is amazing. All right, your editing skills are phenomenal. All right, so good to have you in the building. And there's the link, guys. If anybody do want to come onto the back, the back panel here, while we have a little time here, you're definitely welcome to come onto the panel here. Again, I welcome you all. Thank you for coming through. I have Oba Brandon that came through. What's going on, Oba Brandon in the house? Peace, power, and profit to you, Oba. All right, as always, you definitely always welcome here too. So again, getting back on topic. So Aunt Jemima is the next, somewhat situation now where, we're having to deal with, again, these corporations, so to speak, are now starting to double back on some of their, I don't know, neglect, if you want to go and call it what it really is, of really taking advantage or taking for granted the black, spending power, also our ability to set trends and things of that nature. They're starting now to realize that maybe it's in their best interest now to start actually giving some of that, that money back to the communities that they've made over the years in the tunes of billions and billions of dollars. Right, billions and billions of dollars, but no one wants to actually give back to those communities, right? Because it's pretty much obviously already known that in certain demographics, you're going to have certain stores to so-called quote unquote reflect the so-called community. Let them, tell it, like a McDonald's and things of that nature, and again, the grocery stores that line the shelves in those areas that obviously carry a lot of heavy PepsiCo products, things of that nature, Quaker Oats, Quaker Oats and all that stuff. Mrs. Butterworth served. That's the next one that's been called to fire to the carpet. They're looking to do away with Mrs. Butterworth, the image. I, for one, again, don't have a problem with that. I know some people gonna say, "Well, man, that's a little too much, Emporium, man. Y'all messing up, all the good brands." right? Y'all missing out all the good brands. Well, I say to you again, if it offends somebody in a way where they tired of looking at that, then so be it. Because guess what? The recipe of the syrup is not going to change, not one bit. It's still going to taste the same way. With Aunt Jemima on the front of the box or Mrs. Butterworth on the bottom, whatever the case, the flavor is still going to be the same. So get over the fake outrage, cancel all that ignorance, and understand that again, there's more more people on this planet of different diversities and cultures and things of that nature than just what you like to see, seem to trying to throw around at everybody and force it on everybody else. So get excited about change, because change is also good for investing values too. And that's why, again, understanding these ESG based stock investments that are out there, again, environmental, social, governance type of plays. Again, for some of you guys may not be familiar with that, I would say go Google that terminology, the acronym ESG. These are stocks that are now starting to get a lot of good attention. Right? They're starting to get some attention now. Right? Yep, even Uncle Ben's rice, right? They even do it with Uncle Ben's. Right? Uncle Ben's, no, them days are over. Ain't no Uncle Ben finna be boiling no rice around here today. Right? We ain't finna be burning no rice today, dealing with this Uncle Ben stuff, right? So we need to really, really again, just these are great moments to share this, especially if you got children or just whatever, or environments where you can discuss these things and say, well, you know what, you know, if nothing else, let's go after some of the things that officer has always kind of painted this kind of stereotypical, broad paintbrush perception of people, obviously like that look like me, to the real world, right? That has everybody thinking that these are own things that are more classified with, this certain sect of people in society, right? And I said on the global societal perspective too. So I love it. Again, I love it. Not for the fact that I'm a black man in America, a black male on this globe, but more so for the fact that anytime you have a level of change at this magnitude, dollars are being spent, and some of those dollars are going into some black pockets that need it, right? Some of that money is going into some black businesses that need it, some black ideals that are needed, right? And they've been just as proficient in their intellect and ingenuity and creativity and craftiness as their so-called other counterparties who are, of different ethnicities, right? So you can't convince me that, uh, you know, an ideal that is so-called quote unquote a better mousetrap is better if it comes off the hands of a white inventor than that of a black inventor, right? Is it a better mousetrap at the end of the day? Well, if it is, then finance and bankroll that person to get that business opportunity out there. Right? And don't be trying to be petty and say, well, no, but y'all making, y'all giving these people too much, attention. I mean, that's come on, seriously. Right. So that's why it's time out for a lot of the ignorance, and we have to really get serious about understanding financial literacy, because again, we are in the mix of a real, massive overhaul, in terms of, getting away with the status quo. Right. For years and years, people just getting away with the status quo. Again, Starbucks. You see a lot of stocks today, obviously, kind of pretty much in the same chop zone as you see PepsiCo look the same way Starbucks do. Excuse me, Starbucks. Again, because the broader market is still being inflated again by the feds at this point. We see the SPY kind of pulling back here on the back end of the day. But again, for what it's worth, we are in a usual chop zone, because again, they're trying to keep the market now propped up. I would say roughly, inside of this last major gap up that we had back on, at 308, right? When it gapped up based on this Federal Reserve pump and dump news release that they came out and tried to keep the markets from dumping after Sunday's future market opened up heavily red like it was supposed to, because of what? Civil unrest, not only in America, but also in India and China, right? You had coronavirus cases starting to spike back up again, like we've been seeing. The numbers are starting to uptick again in places like we described as earlier, Arizona, Texas, and Florida, and others as well, right? All the so-called overhanging bad fruit, so to speak, that's often starting to rot on the trees of economic pump and dump schemes that are being exposed for what they really are, taking advantage of the taxpayers' dollars to keep the rich people getting richer, and they're looking at the average hardworking taxpayer citizen again, as lunch meat, so to speak, and can care less about your situation. Hence, that's why they holding up these other what? These other what? Stimulus checks, because they trying to use them as leverage, right? Y'all don't understand how this stuff works. We are investors, right? We understand due diligence, right? We understand financial, again, somewhat them using the aspect of just financial, what's the word I want to use here? Well, I call it what it is, really a heist, right? I don't know if there's a new word to put it out there, a more nuanced word to use, but this financial heist that's happening at the fact that the feds are printing all this sort of fiat digital currency and dumping it into the markets, and they're only really looking out for those who really have the money to what? To afford those level of equity to really get the benefit, off these type of moves that are happening. The average day trader, obviously, in terms of even going into context, they having this big war between Wall Street and Robinhood right now. Robinhood, the trading app, where it's been all over the news over late about how Robinhood traders are being counter traders to Wall Street, and Wall Street trying to do one thing, and then the Robinhood traders are trying to do another thing, and it's like, well, this is becoming problematic. Well, why is it problematic? Well, number one, because Wall Street does not have the rule of the roost in terms of being able to, again, dictate how they feel like stocks should move in the best interest of their, their book, values and things of that nature. So the retail investor is obviously causing a major shakeup, and they're buying stocks that are obviously not the best to buy, but nonetheless, they're buying a lot of stuff like Hertz. All right, we all been reading the articles about Hertz Rental Car Company. Actually, just filed for bankruptcy, going into bankruptcy, and as we speak right now, it is halted. Right, it got halted today based on some commentary that came out of the SEC. Well, actually, it's back open. I spoke too soon. I guess it just kind of opened back up not too long ago. I was sitting there waiting for it to reopen back up. Now it's down to 183, but it gapped up on a short squeeze because shorts were starting to cover, because they was obviously going into a high borrowing fee value premium to own the stock short. Some of those people covered their short, and the stock did what after that? It squeezed up off those shorts covering their position. And most of all they did was just reposition their short position going into, again, what they figured to be a massive bankruptcy for Hertz Rental Car Company, which obviously were detailed in most cases when a stock goes through, a level of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and they're not a solvent company, meaning they don't have enough money on the books to protect them from going under, in a way where it really, really tarnish the brand. Well, then you do what they call a restructuring debt, overhaul through Chapter 11, and you still salvage the company, but a lot of the old money that was sitting in gets get wiped out. The shares go to zero. You get a new different type of ticker symbol sometimes, right? The company still remains intact, but a lot of the old board members who ran the company into the ground, they get ousted as they should, and then you have a whole new different paradigm, right? If you choose to want to invest in the company after that point because you just love Hertz, then so be it. But at this point, this is a part of the game where they tell you to what? Sink or swim, right? Sink or swim. Do your due diligence. So if you're going to chase garbage, be ready, ready to deal with, the garbage when it starts to smell and it's rotting in the sun when no one wants to really touch your stock. But nonetheless, this stock has been a drama queen, right? And nothing against people out there follow drama queen mentality, but it's been a drama queen stock, right, over the past literally month, to be honest. But again, it's just all over the place. It's all over the place. And I would say naturally, it ain't even really a month. We'll go back and say maybe like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. It's just it's been all over the place, right? This stock has been all over the place, right? So right now, again, it just I guess unhalted not too long ago, and again ran up as high as around about $2.30 some odd cents on a spike up, and pull back again, shot back up, and now it's kind of after it's just been unhalted, it's trying to figure out what it's what it want to do here going into the close of the trading session. Right, and full disclosure, I actually got some puts that I'm holding in this stock for next week expiration, for the fact that again it's a bankruptcy laden company. It's headed to the glue factory like a old horse, and so it's going to take a miracle for them to be saved right now. And so, in the interim of that, I am looking to capitalize on potential seeing the stock kind of pull back when the realization of the traders who have been trying to day trade and who really don't understand what bankruptcy all is, because they are Robinhood type traders who don't really understand, fundamental analysis, then, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of take a little position here to see if we can kind of benefit off the, at some point when they open the floodgates and these traders start to realize that this is a bad trade, not even investment, but a bad trade to try to be bullish on it, I think it's going to pull back even more. Again, it's just a theory. Again, it's trading and investing in the markets is not an exact science, but I do understand that what Chapter 11 bankruptcy means, right, in relation to a stock that's dealing with the many issues that this company is facing, on top of a pandemic and economic slowdown and things of that nature. And so again, they just have a double whammy situation. And unfortunately, this is the scenario we talked about previously on my live streams, where I said a lot of companies are going to be taken out or taken to the woodshed because they were obviously very financially irresponsible at times when they were actually kind of getting it. And some companies, they just got very bad, old, and antiquated business models, and they can't compete with their major competitors. Right? Hertz may be one of them. Hertz been around for a long time. Man, y'all remember seeing them all old O.J. Simpson commercials? Right? They brought them old O.J. Simpson commercial back with Hertz, where him jumping over that little tight rope trying to run to get to his little, run a car wherever he was going to. I don't know, wherever. But nonetheless, that's the story on Hertz. So as of now, it's unhalted and it's resumed trading here again on the back end of the day. Again, we got about 12 minutes before the bell rings here in the regular, intraday session of trading, even though post market, goes all the way to 8 p.m. But for the most part, all the retailers who want to trade the intraday session are about to exit the market, and we'll see exactly what happens with Hertz when that happens. So right now it's barely trying to hold above $1.90. All right, they're doing everything they can to kind of hold it up here. I guess it's a psychological number at this point. You're dealing with 10-cent increments from $2 to $1.90 to $1.80, whatever, $1.70, where it was kind of trending at the point where it was getting ready to really break down. And then again, every time it gets down to that area, somebody obviously comes in miraculously and buys it up off the lows. I have an indication what I think it is. I think it's really Jeffries, the same company, who's trying to be the controller, so to speak, of this offering that they were trying to get away with. Having a offering before a bankruptcy, after filing bankruptcy, is pretty much ludicrous. Never seen somebody try to pull some of this off before, and Hertz was the one that tried to do it. That tried to do it. Right? And the SEC halted the stock with trying to figure out, what exactly are they trying to prove in doing something like that. I don't know the commentary since it's been unhalted, but I'm definitely looking to go read it and find out if there's anything I need to know concerning what the SEC obviously rendered for the verdict, to why they halted the stock, because it was not necessarily a volatility halt, it was an SEC halt. Right, the Security Exchange Commission halted the stock because they had some questions as well surrounding Hertz management to want to pull off something like that, to try to do an offering of some shares that potentially going to go to zero or get wiped out behind their bankruptcy. So why are you raising capital in a stock that possibly getting ready to go to zero? Couldn't make this stuff up. The level of insidious greed that's still in this market and these corrupt companies. Why I say, man, all these companies out here are pump and dump companies. I say that all the time to remove any kind of, delusion of grandeur in investors or traders who are always trying to say, well, no, not my company. All of them are pump and dumps. Hertz is a prime example how they're trying to use, quote unquote, capital markets and gullible traders, so to speak, to capitalize and to leave them people holding it, stuck holding the bag once they actually go through with a complete, Chapter 11 overhaul, find out that they're not going to be solvent. They don't have enough money or equity they can tap to kind of take care of their bills or their debt. Then they have to get rid of the shares as a liquidation break, which you go through in terms of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, to now pay for some of the heavy debtors who are also the bond holders of your stock, because it's now deemed to be a worthless investment. And so you couldn't make this stuff up, but this is the market we trade and we benefit in and through. When we see opportunities like this arise, we're just there to try to take advantage of it. Right. And so it is what it is. Right. It is what it is. I don't know the last time y'all didn't, that's a good name for Hertz instead of Hertz, right? HURTS should be the new ticker symbol at this point, because that's basically what's going on with this puppy right now, because it's getting hurt. And I'm just saying, again, these Robinhood traders are I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but it's crazy watching them still try to trade these type stocks. CHK is another one, right? Chesapeake Energy did a massive reverse split. Stock ran up always near what, 70, $80 a share, right? And now it's all the way back down to like 13, $14 a share. Somewhere around, yeah, $13 a share. Couldn't make this stuff up, guys. I mean, look at this foolishness, guys. Look at this. Thing was up here in the $80 a share, right? And meteoric rise again from $12 back on the 4th, right? And ran all the way up to like near $80 a share on the 8th. So in 4 days, the stock, I mean, come on, seriously? Seriously? Crazy gains. Again, we made money on the way up a little bit, and we making money on the way back down. But again, this is the crazy market that we're trading in, right? This is the kind of crazy market we're trading in when people are just buying in and everything. Again, this is that fight between Wall Street and Robinhood right now. These people at home, they're not in school, these college kids, these high schoolers, man, their parents say, hey, here's about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they on this Robinhood app just buying anything that everybody say go buy, because they have no understanding clue what they really should be doing. All they need to hear is somebody say, hey, buy this here. Okay, mom just gave me $5,000, and they're gonna dump all of it. I can just imagine seeing the faces of some of these jokers. And on a serious side, that also could be very problematic too. Because I don't know if y'all guys saw the article, right? That one article, right? The recent one about the one guy who lost over $700,000, right? A trader lost over $700,000 trading a highly leveraged margin account. Again, I don't know who these people giving these people this kind of money to be out there gambling with, basically, but they messed up this guy entire, well, literally his life. Guy ended up committing suicide. 20-year-old Robinhood trader commits suicide after seeing a $730,000 negative balance in his trading account. Moment of silence for that. This is why it's important to realize, right? This is why it's important to realize, right? It's not so much of a game as people allow to make it to be. It's so much more serious than that. But you have to realize all the trappings of, being responsible, and you can't just be out there willy-nilly and gambling, thinking you at Las Vegas and gonna hit the lottery. Just because you got stocks around you running 1,000% in a day, 500% in a day, 400% in a day, does not stop you, or should stop you from doing your due diligence and doing your what? Of being disciplined, right? Doing the proper research to make sure that you're doing what you're doing enough to make sure you're protecting yourself. Because the same people that were pumping them up to buy certain stocks, I guarantee none of them are around right now, in the demise of him taking his own life, and saying, trying to stop him, right? And some of these brokers are just as much guilty. Again, as you can see, it says what? How was a 20-year-old with no income able to assign almost $1 million worth of leverage? Who gave him almost $1 million worth of leverage at 20 years old? Again, y'all know when they do the little background checks, they just ask you how much you think your net worth is and your income and all that. Don't really go into debt to kind of verify, and that's still a good thing in my case. But you still need to know, if you're gonna get this person to kind of leverage, then I think that you need to do a little bit more research behind the person, because you're giving them just a free will. Again, Ricky Bobby syndrome, right? I want to go fast. He got in the station wagon with some dual flow pipes and nitrous oxide in that station wagon, and hit the gas pedal. And lo and behold, I mean, 730,000, right? And he was a student in college, right? Student in college at University of Nebraska, right? At home from college, living with his parents, right? In his room or the basement, wherever they're at. And got up one day, saw that big deficit. Or I don't know how it happened, but walked in front of a train. Walked in front of an incoming train and ended it all. Couldn't make this stuff up. Right? Crazy, man. Again, it's crazy. So, again, for what it's worth, we're going to do our part to stay disciplined, diligent, and and obviously I should say coherent, and understand that what we're working with and what we're dealing with. All right. It's just not that serious. Again, Wall Street has a habit of doing that. Again, Wall Street investment bankers are known for committing suicides, jumping out of high-rise buildings. You right, overtaking in New York and this, that, and the third, because again, they stole money from a lot of people. Then they turn around and had to lose a little bit, and that gives them the reason to want to kill themselves. Apparently, I mean, just how fragile you have to be. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Again, I know it's a crazy topic, but it's just the reality of things that we have to start realizing that this stuff is, again, it's happening. It's happening out there in and around the world that you live in, right? It's happening. And again, no amount of loss should be worth the person taking their life, even though you had a very uh, irresponsible company in Robinhood giving them that kind of leverage. It goes back to that guy that traded Apple that time. Y'all remember I showed that video several times. They got a loss all that money trading Apple on all that leverage.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that face is one that you can never live down, man. That boy took a deep breath. That thing opened up, and Apple went to skyrocket, and he bought puts. That took a coop. That took a deep breath. Coop. It was lights out over after that, boy. Ooh, wee. So again, hey, for what it's worth, again, we're just trying to make sure that we do our part, and making sure that the people who are around us realize that we have your interests in mind. We're not reckless. We're not going to just be throwing out stocks. And, no matter how much you ask for somebody to give you a stock and this, that, and the third, it's just not going to happen. Right? We're going to give you the tools to learn how to find your own stock. Right? To be the hunter. Right? To be the fisher, the hunter gatherer. Right? And then from there, again, you'll become more proficient in that mentality, as opposed to waiting for somebody to always throw you a stock. Right? I just find it to be very, again, it's just in your best benefit. It's in your best interest that you see things from that perspective. Because again, if you do become a little complacent, in that perspective, right, and you always looking for someone to give you a stock, like he probably, like that gentleman was, not saying he wasn't, but again, that can be very problematic. It could be problematic. Yeah, and so, and saying that it's just not worth. It's not worth it. Again, it's not worth it, man. Don't do nothing crazy like that. Don't over leverage yourself. Don't jump out there, literally in front of a train, literally, and it's not worth it. All right, there goes the bell, guys. There is the bell. The intraday session is officially over, and Robinhood traders have additional 2 hours to mess up the market some more right now, until 6 o'clock. All right, so there goes your market. So again, overall, not a bad day. Again, we did have Jerome Powell speaking today. We did have, again, before the Congress, we did have some, some other things that we were dealing with in terms of economic data points that was kind of surrounding the marketplace. And so again, just understanding that, uh, these are times when you want to start looking at the market as being kind of stressed out. It's very, very stressed out at this point. And at any aspect where the Fed can't continuously keep this so-called majestic pump going, it's signaling a lot of people willing to want to get out of the market. Excuse me, right? Well, more so than want to get in at this point. At these prices, what I'm saying, at these prices. So you got to be careful. You got to realize that, especially if you are setting up some new positions. Again, I'm always saying scale into positions and scale out of positions, right? Be very methodical in your trading, right? Learn how to, again, utilize momentum as a carrier of gaining more gains, as opposed to liquidating your entire position when you don't have to. And the same way when it comes to dumping. If you are a long-term holder exposed to a trader, it's the same mentality. If you want to trim back to reposition the dollar cost average in, then okay, it's okay to do that as well. But just be conscious about again that stocks that are giving you kind of wild swings throughout the day and just all over the place. You know, it's expected. We're in a different, unfortunate climate right now, right? Due to, again, you know, the economic situation surrounding everybody, but also, you know, the financial side of the house. Excuse me, the social side of the house that's causing a lot of unrest and change. And you know, a lot of people are just not, you know, dying to want to run back into the retail stores and do all the other stuff like that. No matter how much they try to say that retail data that came out last Friday was just, you know, staggeringly good. I mean, obviously, you just did a phase 2 reopening, so everybody that went back out, of course, they first thing they're gonna do is spend a little money. It wasn't like they were just, and most of that stuff they probably spent money on was not necessarily luxury items. It was more like necessities probably than it was just luxury items. You know, but again, y'all know how this stuff works. Politics got to play its point of spinning the news and make it seem like people just out free willy nilly spending money and they ain't got no jobs. Obviously, so what they spending money with, I don't know. But again, they're gonna tell you that it's good news. I'll let y'all be the judge of that, right? But nonetheless, again, we're gonna follow the markets. We're gonna follow the data. We're gonna follow, you know, everything that's pertinent for us to keep abreast of, again, the market in a way that we need to kind of keep our eye on it. Uh, with the Fed always becoming more of the fall guy at some point when they have to cut off these printing presses and the market has to operate under its own reconnaissance for a change, then you will see the true nature, or when they pull the cover back on this financial market, what it will really look like, having to operate under its own. And so we all know that it's just being propped up by Trump talking points, Mnuchin and Kudlow, Peter Navarro, those that sector, and also the Fed is complicit because they don't want to be the target from the White House incendiary, talking points, talking down on the Fed in terms of Jerome Powell for making these kind of bad decisions that go against, you know, Trump trying to obviously keep the markets propped up for who? These wealthy donors and lobbyists who are now looking to see whether or not they want to keep him in office another 4 years. So this is just more hijacking the financial free markets to, again, and the taxpayers too, because again, everybody's waiting for another stimulus check, which you should have got literally, you know, months ago. Again, as they holding it as leverage, trying to make you be loyal to their base to get your vote. And let's just say that they gave you something, which is your money anyway. How can they give you your money back when it's your money and act like they gave you something? It's mine anyway. And so they playing this mental game. They know a lot of people ain't that smart to really think it all the way through because they hungry, they desperate, they're in despair, but not over here, right? Not over here on this channel, right? We understand enough. We don't know it all, but we're learning, but we're following the money. We're trying to keep up with all this kind of, you know, irrational exuberance, and people obviously going to do what they always do in most cases, vote against their own interests, thinking they're doing something despite the government or despite the so-called movement that's happening right now in terms of the civil unrest. And people do again myriad of things for what reason I have no clue, and it's just to try to be anti something. Again, even to their own detriment. Even to their own detriment. But again, nonetheless, all right, we're not going to get caught in that. We're going to be level-headed. We're going to be conscious. We're going to be, you know, free thinkers, and we're going to do the research, right? To do as much as we can to validate our thesis when we go to formulate one, right? So, with that being said, again, I know I said a whole lot under a little bit of time. Again, I don't want to sit here and, you know, keep up you guys' time too long because again, I do, I am excited for the fact, number one, or you know, we got another show coming up later on today. You know, on the Dagger Squad channel, we're gonna speak of, you know, obviously Sister Mo, she's still on tap for that. Urban Economic Empowerment show where we're gonna discuss a lot of things dealing with finances again and also stocks too. So definitely tune in to that. The channel is called Dagger Squad. Some of you guys who may be new to it, go check it out. But also again, you know, we have you know, something to look forward for tomorrow as well. Let me see, what do we have? Let's see if there's any kind of news coming out tomorrow. Besides, I know we probably got some more unemployment news to a degree, but I'm trying to see if there's anything that's very pressing that we need to kind of be, you know, cognizant of If it is, I'll post it, maybe in the comment section after I log off. But for right now, again, I don't think it's anything pressing besides them giving an update probably on the jobs numbers. They're using that as another way to pump the markets. Y'all know these people have no, they have no chill in trying to get people, thinking that the market is doing something that it really isn't. Meaning the overall job market and the economic market, not necessarily the stock market, but what's really happening behind the scenes. It's just funny watching all this stuff happen. Never seen nothing mess like this ever. Right, so it's funny, but again, nonetheless, as you see the description of the day, PepsiCo to drop Aunt Jemima name criticized for racist history, a historical timeline of just racism, uh, innuendo backed up by having a woman on the front of a pancake box, looking like something out of basically the 30s or the 40s or maybe earlier. And here it is, 2020. Even at least update it, right? At least update the cover, and maybe put Aunt Jemima niece up there or something, maybe her granddaughter or something like that. I mean, man, hey, play hot. You a model, sis. You do
Right.
better. Better just to that box than having that old picture of Aunt Jemima up there. Put play hot pancakes or something, right? I love it. Right, y'all
Yeah.
know that thing to
Yeah.
sell out, in seconds, right? Or Sister Monica, right? The financial pancakes up there, right? The army pancake, right? That stuff will sell
Yeah.
out in seconds, man. Again, y'all know people love, upgrades. We are a society of, sometimes put a little more paint on that thing, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just put some armor all on it, shine up a little bit. And so these people just been getting away for years with this same old antiquated, again, like I said, uh, you know, symbology to a degree. And here it is. People are like, man, seriously, 2020, seriously, ain't your mama, right? Mrs. Butterworth dressing like she like dressed like like the lady on Gone with the Wind, right? And that kind of apron and look like, man, that's back in the 20s and the 30s. What are y'all really trying to symbolize? Right? Again, y'all know what it is. Look at me. I'm the last one to sit here and try to blow smoke up, at a point when people are just smart, right? We're just too smart to not know what's going on. But they feel like since you ain't, if you're not raising a lot of sand behind it, then it's business as usual. Right? But that's a lie. Right? So again, that's a 130-year-old brand logo on the Ancient Mama Pancake Box. 130 years. So you're talking about around about the 1890s? 1890s?
Crazy.
You literally no more than about 30 years after what? Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And them people still rocking that trash to this day, acting like people just fine with that.
Crazy, man.
And it was a 19th century minstrel show caricature. That was used. That's basically what it was. It was a 19th century minstrel show caricature of stereotyping a black woman,
Yep.
a nanny or a housekeeper or whatever y'all want to kind of describe, call it. Let's be real. How many people, especially in the black community, see their mothers or their grandmothers like that today? Like, are you kidding me? And so people are always going to push back, man, well, it's just pancake. People always want you to settle. People always want you to settle when it seems to be a beneficial side joke to what they can use to leverage against you to make you feel like you less than or worthless.
Right.
And see, that has to stop. And we have to be cognizant of that. And I'm saying that because, again, sometimes we perpetuate it ourselves. So we got to make sure we don't do it too. We got to be very selective in what we say, how we present ourselves in the same light. Because again, they're only going to they're going to continuously do it based upon what they feel like you're willing to kind of give them the room to keep these things alive. Because we're sitting there perpetuating it in a lot of ways sometimes. Right? But it still doesn't get them the right to do it. It's just that they saying, hey, they don't care. So we're going to keep it on the products and the packages. And y'all get what I'm saying. It's just, I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, over Chris? And we'll get ready to wind down here in a minute. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a complete spit in the face, to be honest. I mean, this is the opportune time to do it too. So, man, it's crazy how good they are at playing mind games on us. And you know, some of us that, ain't in the know, they look at it and be like, they'll say something like that, like, "Oh, what's wrong with it, man? It's a black woman on there." I'm like, "No, brother, you got to do some more digging, do some more research. That is a disrespectful image that they put on this brand."
Right. Right.
And once you understand that, then you can see everything else will open up to you. Like, they've been disrespecting us in our faith for a long time, man. And now they want to take the opportune moment to do this in the middle of a pandemic and killing of black men. So it's a spit in the face. It's disrespectful, and you get people who don't know anything or don't know any better, and they don't see nothing wrong with it. And I'm like, okay, let me educate you, brother. There's something wrong with it, and them doing this today is just like ridiculous. All of these companies now they want to be down for the black people now. We got to stop this injustice and all of this other stuff. Like, they trying to smooth this over. Like, okay, we hear you guys now. Now, what about the last 400 plus years? You didn't hear us then, but all of a sudden now you hear us. I mean, this is ridiculous. They playing with our emotions, and we got to understand that when stuff like this happens. You know what I'm saying? I know some people are like, well, you know, they didn't have to do that. I mean, they definitely owe us everything, everything, literally. Not only we are the biggest consumers, but we built this whole country, this whole infrastructure, and they have the money that they're donating. That's our money, essentially. So, you know, for me, it's nothing. You're not doing nothing for us. That's just to swindle us over, and everybody can be quiet and go back to doing what they was doing. No, they playing games with us, y'all. We gotta understand that. That's it for me.
You're right. And again, for what it's worth, you guys do understand the complexity. Anytime you begin to talk about anything that's real, right, is when most people get uncomfortable. It's something wrong with that narrative or thought process in a person's mental psyche to understand that anytime you're faced with truth, it instantly makes you uncomfortable. So what does that really say? It says that we've been conditioned to be comfortable with lies so much, the facade, the surreal aspect of being in a la la land, as opposed to dealing with real big boy or big woman, grown folk type of issues and ironing things out to make a very transparent environment where anybody can live in and not have to deal with all this nuanced, subtle racism or inequality or stereotypes on any side of the fence. Just doesn't matter, because if you breed the energy for one side and you make it heavy on one side, when it starts to happen back, then it's the reverse polarity aspect of it. Then it becomes a thing. Well, that's reverse racism. No, that's idiocy to say some stupid mess like that. It's complete idiocy. Ain't no reverse racism. No, you are the perpetuator or the orchestrator of it in the beginning, and now you can't deal with it because it's a hard truth. Because the lens is shine back on you. Now it becomes a problem. So this is where I would say it's a great time for people to become autodidactic when it comes to understanding historical context and not listen to anybody else's nuanced story or how they figure your existence came to be or what you about or what your people. No, go and do your own research. Period. Period. Right. And until these things become you know whole or close to whole, then don't let up. Because what you realize is the people who really respect you, who don't look like you, they'll still hang around because they understand that this is a form of change that they know is necessary, because a lot of their generations played the part of under that benign neglect, play dumb, don't talk about it, this, that, and the third, even sometimes even schooling their offspring to what? have that level of hate or disdain in their heart for other people. So this is a great change, a great time in history where people are being called to the carpet, dragged or voluntarily, where they're gonna have to start dealing with these things that we've been having to deal with since like forever. Forever. It was no days off because you can't peel this black skin off. I tell you what, and it's the best skin I would ever want to be in, ever. If I had to come back and do it all over again, but because I understand the complexities of it that makes me who I am. In the same way people feel good about their heritage when they're the ones, getting a light shine on them, and they Irish and they East Indian and they Asian, they feel good about their situation. To the tune where they got towns named after their ethnicity. Little Italy and I mean, their nationality, the Little Italy and Little China, right? Germantown, all this stuff. Time again, black people say, "Wait, we want a black town, all right?" Or black love is important right now, or black businesses are important right now. Oh my goodness, the world has to stop. In come the crime, in come the smallest violin ever produced, and the whining starts. No one gets to celebrate, their nationality, their ethnicity, their historical context, besides anybody that's not black. Simple as that. Now that's again, you could not make this stuff up in 2020. People still walk around with the mentality thinking that you're supposed to be the one to take all the blows and dish none back out. Because people have gotten complacent in this complicity of racism that has made people comfortable in it to walk around saying what they want to say, to push you to the limits because they think the law has gotten their back. Y'all been seeing the same things I've been seeing. Y'all been seeing all these people come up out of the woodworks like roaches, literally. Letting their racism just come all out. I mean, just letting it fly. Like baby powder on the movie How High. When you slap people with that baby powder, let it fly. These people letting their racism fly like none other. They can't take it right now that you're starting to be the what? The center of attention for just once for a change. Racists caught on tapes, on video, left and right. Could not make this stuff up. I mean, as if before all this, they were just fine because they like, yep, keep them people in their place. Now it's like, uh-oh, they're getting too much attention. Let me see if I can talk them back down with that old, the old ways how we used to back in the old day when we used to use certain vernacular terminology to denote people that when they said that was more indicative of the person who was calling you that than the person they were trying to call that. And now they can't take it. They cannot take it. And I love it. Because now it's a great opportunity for a lot of people to get a wake-up call. Those who were trying to dish it out, and the people that have been taking it now get a chance to stand up for themselves and get a real hard lesson in history. And they got to stop playing games now. Because they're getting wake-up calls, unfortunately. That's forcing them to wake up. Y'all saw that little video about the FedEx guy? FedEx guy delivering packages. I guess he thought he was just part of the fold. Just because he worked for FedEx. He thought his racism. Lady pulled up beside him behind his truck, flashing lights on him, blowing the horn, pulls up beside him, called him everything except a child of the universe, and sped off. To the tune where it rocked this court. The guy pulled over side the road and started crying and videotaping. A grown man in 2020. A grown black man in 2020 acting as if he did not know racism was that much more close to him than it was farther away from him. Wake up call. A lot of people getting those wake up calls now. Again, on both sides. Don't get it twisted, on both sides. So I say if it's going to bring people to the table and so they can talk about it, discuss it, and have you open for a discussion, then so be it. Because I guarantee you this, one thing black people in this country owe anybody on this planet right now is nothing. We owe nobody nothing. No explanation, nothing. And if you got a problem with that, take it up with your creator. Because you can't convince me that your creator allowed all this stuff to happen under your watch, their watch, and say, this is fine. This is fine. Slavery, 400 plus, this is fine. Raping and robbing, this is fine. Castrating kids, this is fine. Feeding them to alligators, this is fine. Racist characters on syrup bottles and pancakes and rice boxes, this is fine. How do you live? Again, I'm not going to make it about that kind of show right now. But y'all get my point. Y'all get my point. Wake up, everybody. Not just one side, everybody. People are not going for that mess no more. It's time out. It's been time out. It just sometimes it's a tipping point. It's a tipping point sometimes that happens, and you have that kind of level of cataclysmic change that happens. And when it does happen, guess what? Be the first one or the first one on the front line to provoke the change that's needed. Don't be sitting back and watching everybody else do the work, then come around after the fact, like, yeah, y'all tell them. No, do your part. Educate somebody. Share some knowledge with somebody. Don't be intrusive. Just say, hey, you might want to check this out. Hey, here's some excerpts. You got an email so I can send you some data? Because apparently what you've been reading is just a whole lot of fluff. Right? You ain't seeing the both sides of the coin. There's two sides to a coin. And so everybody needs it. And more so black people more than anybody. Because again, you're the one that's being targeted all the time. And it's disheartening to see so many black people still run around acting as if that it's not a problem. All right, until again it happens to them. A la Candace Owens, right? Another conversation for another day, because that'll be 2-3 hours with the conversation about her, right? And so again, it's just a part of understanding that you all are unique, you are special, you are unlike anybody on this planet, and you need not feel any kind of way once people start to realize how special you are, and to the tune where you should not be desensitized to the fact of how beautiful and special you are anyway. What's the first rule of nature? What is the very first rule of nature? Self-preservation. Period. End of discussion. Roll credit. Movie over. If you are not preserving thyself, then you are losing. Right? You can't be walking around in America or on the planet at this point in the game and not realizing the environments you're walking in and out of every single day. I know we just recently discovered that we got some aliens. As if they already knew, probably, right? CNN releasing footage just now to the Pentagon and dropped by alien ships, and now all of a sudden the jokers are coming out the woodwork. The flat earthers and the round earthers and the aliens and the not aliens and the vaccine and the non-vaccine. Everybody fighting right now. Everybody fighting. Out to my boys, it's a Donnybrook like none other. Boy, Joker hooking left and right now. And again, for what it's worth, we're going to come out better in the end when it's all said and done, because now we get a chance to do away with these implicit biases, miseducated misnomers, misdirected, incendiary stereotypes, all this stuff and to get called to question. And I guarantee you, one way or the other, we're all going to come out better on the back end, because now you get a chance to say, look, you saw what just happened. You know what's happening. Don't be an idiot. Don't be a fool. Don't try to continue this dumbness. Because if you do, you know the consequences. That's what people are afraid of. They don't want to deal with those consequences. Right? So hold your foot to the pedal. If you are a for change kind of person, hold your foot to the pedal. Do not let up. Be the change that you desire. Be that level of respect that you demand. Right? And force your will. The same way people force their will on you, your ancestry, all that, be the same force to change it. Not that you owe anybody nothing, Just circle your own wagons and vote the change within those things that you can control to make sure that the fold of everybody start to get better on code, to make sure that they're not any loose hanging chads out there like the election back in the old days, them loose hanging chads that distort the direction of where we're trying to what? Push our agendas. And our agendas are just like anybody else. Equality, opportunity, fairness, and ability to enjoy this planet like anybody else. Period. End of discussion. Got a problem with that? You're going to have some problems. You're going to have some problems. Because y'all see what's happening. I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all see what's happening out there. You're going to have some problems if you try to buck against that. Right? So again, I'm not going to be here and try to, be preaching to everybody, but y'all get my point. Right? Right? Y'all get the point. Right? And I'm only saying that because, again, I'm the type of person where I know, I'm a very approachable kind of person, right? And I just enjoy seeing people win, at any cost or aspect where we get a chance to take down, again, the oligarchy type systems and the government. Like, I'm that kind of crusader, right? So we use it through the markets, right? That's our one way we're trying to do it, right? We're trying to dismantle it through the market. We're trying to build up our financial coffers, so one day we can be affect change even through the value of financial situation. We could be maybe some front runners, right? So some front, some financial, support scenarios in projects that obviously affect and change. So again, we're all learning. We're all still learning. We're looking to get better. Why wouldn't you want to obviously learn something to do, learn how to do this, what we're doing? Because again, you don't have to deal with all this systemic problems that were obviously, held in regard before all this, equal opportunity employment. Seriously, they found ways around that. Still kept you from getting a job. Banking and lending acts and stuff that have been put in place to keep people from having been discriminated against those things. They still found ways to keep you out of loans and housing and all that. Again, come on. Couldn't make this stuff up. Couldn't make this stuff up. And for those who may not ever experience it and be like, man, you just overreaching. Okay, I tell you what, walk one day in our shoes. You're gonna be running to get them shoes back. Like, bro, yeah, man, look, bro, you get them shoes back, bro. I'm straight. So again, this ain't just again hyperbole and hyper sensational conversation. These are tangible realities that we've been facing since time immemorial under this paradigm of so-called quote unquote America. And so I love it. So, and I'm saying that for the fact that we're now challenging that stuff through different aspects of challenging the financial system. And that's what we do as investors and traders. We're going up against these greedy Wall Streeters, these greedy people who've made over $565 billion since this pandemic has hit. How did they make that money? When everybody else was losing money, losing this and getting sick and losing life. And how did all the greedy people make all that kind of money if everybody's supposed to be under the same level of distress? They doubled down on their greed because they know they had a financial system in place to protect the wealthy, that over the common people. This ain't nothing new under the sun in terms of when you have a rogue, so quote unquote government state that's doing the bidding of the lobbyists as opposed to the will of the people. And you got a complicit Fed who will sit there, look you in your face, and tell you that it's Congress' job to take care of the people. It's my job to take care of the overall economy. Okay, what is the overall economy? The people, idiot. And you know it. You just think people are dumb and people don't understand this stuff enough to realize what's happening. And so you're bailing out irresponsible companies. You're bailing out irresponsible holders of trash bonds and this, that, and the third. You're doing everything to prove the thesis of this country that is rotten in a lot of ways, and they know it needs to be changed. Because you're only emboldening people to still do the same thing they've been doing because they feel like they're shielded. But I'll leave it at that. So thank y'all for tuning in with your brother. Again, I didn't want to be on here too long. We got a show coming up later today on the Dagger Squad channel, Urban Economic Empowerment Wednesdays. Again, the claim to fame that obviously even got me even excited about wanting to come on and do live streams myself. Even though I had a YouTube channel back then, but more so the fact that I'm trying to be a steward of my community, a pillar of my society, and helping my people become more intrinsically, tangibly excited about learning how to invest in the markets. So tune in. Again, I think she's gonna go live between maybe 6, 7, and 8. Who knows? Just make sure you tune in to the Dagger Squad channel. So when you do see that live, red button is lit up, go check it out because there's gonna be some good information disseminated over there. I guarantee it. Humble people, people with some humility, and people who are there to try to again bring about change. Simple as that. So again, thank y'all for tuning in. Any last words over Chris on the way out the door? Over.
Hold on one second. Um, I would say this. You know, learn and pick up as much information as you can. You know, thanks for Oba coming on. And a lot of time we miss his voice. But he still, he still has to do what he has to do on his end. So it's always refreshing and good to have our brother on. To break down things for us in the simplest terms, and just bring more light to a situation. And it's always a teaching session, and it's inspirational. So whatever he talks about, really be listening, because it's for our betterment, especially in this field of science or work, um, that we are learning and trying to master. You know, I'm just appreciative to you know be able to take advantage of the opportunities that we have. You know, and I would just say to y'all, man, just swallow up all this information, digest it, and hope it turns into gold at the end of the day, because you know this is a life changing opportunity. Um, it's a blessing. I'm glad I'm glad I got a chance to talk to over African Emporium, and learn, and under his tutelage, and you know see the see the gem and the gold in the information that he brings forth. You know, he says all the time that he's not a guru or anything, but he's mastered the information enough to become profitable on all fronts. And that's just where we hope to be one day, working our way up the ladder. It's a village mentality, so we learn from each other day in and day out. So with that, I say peace, power, and profit.
All right, peace, power, and profit, Oba. And I'm grateful, I'm humbled, I'm honored to have, as I always say, battle buddies in the game of financial literacy and historical context, creating, you know, values to really spark change. Right? Again, we are the vanguard, as I like to say a lot. We are the vanguard. We are the future, so to speak. Teachers of those who will come behind us in our own right. And so, as we all know, we want to be remembered as doing something good for change, as opposed to being a deficit, right, or a destructive person, in our value of life or our tenure of life. So, again, I'm always, man. Again, you already know. Just anytime, you already know. I'm beck and call. You guys need me. If I'm able, I'm there. And so you already know, over Chris, 10 toes down, got your back. Your front, your six, as we say in the military, got your six and your 12, and your three and your nine. Right? We surrounded, we're going to protect one another. And I say that because, again, we all need that kind of mentality where we look out for one another more so than we've been kind of been conditioned to be individualistic people, which obviously is never good, especially in the case where you're dealing with the things we're dealing with today. You need a base of people around you. I like to say it's the village, right? Because it really is that, right? And a village mindset is a very humble but creative environment, right? It's a humble, creative environment, right? And so that's what this marketplace is obviously providing for us, opportunity where we can come in, think tank together, and then find ways to procure the bag. Simple as that. Simple as that. And then build some great relationships on the way. So again, if you guys have not had a chance to be a part of our little Facebook Messenger group, if you would like, just hit me up, through my little social medias, whatever the case. We'll get you situated. Because there's some really hardworking people in those environments where they're challenging themselves, challenging the status quo, and they can feel comfortable in the process of doing it. They don't have to feel intimidated because everybody may know some more than they do. None of that stuff. None of that stuff is going to happen in our environments, and we keep it, PG-13. So it's respectful, even that perspective, so the women can be comfortable, and also, the men in there, can still feel like alpha males without having to feel like they got to be, over the top, and so that's the kind of environment that I love being around, because again, that's how it should be, right? That's how it should be anyway, right? So yeah, so I'm humbled by that, Ober Chris. Thank you for those kind words, bro. Man, you going places. All I can say, you going places, right?
Okay.
So it's a good thing. All right.
Facts,
So
brother. Facts. Appreciate you.
yeah, anytime. You already know it. So again, with that being said, guys, again, I'm gonna get ready to get off here. So you guys get ready for the show later on today. Again, if you, well, hopefully I get. I may try. Well, I hate to say that, but I'm definitely going to try to go live again tomorrow, if I can, as a continuation to today, and do some more, again, daily market analysis. Because again, I think again we are in that kind of time where the market is, you know, it's in that next crossroads. So we kind of predicted the last movement, pretty thoroughly in terms of what it was going to do once it kind of hit certain key levels, and it did just that. And a lot of us were able to capitalize on it. So it's going to be no different now. Now that we're in a different so-called quote unquote channel area, that we need to make sure we properly, itemize it and know what's going on, so we can make effective and clean trades, going forward under the circumstances. Right. So that's that. So with that being said, guys, again, peace, power, and profit. Thank you all for stopping by. I see you guys on the next live stream. Right. And stay proud, guys. I stay proud. That's all I'm going to say. Stay proud, and stay building. All right. So peace, power, and profit, everybody. See y'all on the next live.
Peace, power, profit.